Hello everyone, it's Mad Clout 94 here today, and oh boy, what happened today? What's going on, Burnley? What are you doing? What are you doing? What is the Burnley Board doing? I don't know what Sean Dyche is doing. I don't really know what's going on. We've just sold Andre Gray, um, which is a debatable decision. Um, selling one of your prized assets, regardless of whether he was starting at the end of the season or not. Selling him to Watford, a direct competitor, which is a little bit suspect in itself. But potentially, the fee is somewhere between. It's undisclosed. It's somewhere between 10 and 18 million. A lot of people are saying 18 million, but some sources are saying that's with add-ons. If it is for 18 million, then that's good business. But what the hell? Where did this transfer just came out of nowhere, and you're literally doing it like 2 days before the season starts? What are you doing? I mean, at least you better have a replacement lined up. Not being funny, but you've now got three strikers. You've got Barnes, Walters, and Vokes, who are three of the exactly same style player, based on power, not particularly pacey, scrappy strikers, basically. Vokes has got a little bit more finesse about him, to be fair, but the other two. So we've now only got three strikers at the club, which is not enough. Because if one gets injured, we're absolutely knackered. The Andre Gray transfer itself, I've just watched his first interview with Watford, which made me laugh a little bit, because he sat there and said that he did his job and he felt like he needed a fresh challenge. Right, so 2 seasons. One, fair enough, you did really well in the Championship. Fantastic, well done, you got us promoted. So that was half the job. The other half was scoring enough goals to keep us in the Premier League, which you kind of did, and you kind of didn't, because you weren't even in the first team by the time the end of the season came around. The last 10 games, the whole season, you were hopeless in most cases. I was amazed that you even scored, 9? Because you just had you had a first touch that was so bad, and the amount of times you had the opportunity one-on-one and you fluffed your lines or you hit it straight at the keeper. I mean, this whole thing of needing a new challenge. Yeah, sure. I'll buy that. Yeah, it's nothing to do with the fact that you wanted £100,000 a week, and despite the fact that we offered you the highest pay packet possible in the history of the club, and you rejected it. That had nothing to do with it, did it? I'm not surprised you packed your bags as soon as you heard Watford were interested. I mean, if anyone's going to pay him that much money, I don't know how much money he's being paid at Watford. He's certainly not worth £100,000 a week. He's off his rocker if he thinks he's worth that much. But I appreciate what he did for the club in the Championship, at least. In the Premier League, you were incredibly frustrating to watch, and quite frankly, I'm glad to see the back of you for 10 to 18 million pounds. That's good business, provided the club reinvests that money. Because right now, we've not reinvested the Keane funds on a replacement centre back that who the hell was supposed to get in, but perhaps Craig Dawson. No, because Tony Pulis doesn't sell to rivals. He's got it up there. I don't sell to relegation rivals. We sat back and watched as Jay Rodriguez got signed by West Brom as well. We need a striker, and the guy that we could have had instead of Andre Gray went ages ago to West Bromwich Albion, because we just sat back and watched. We sat back and watched as Tony Pulis lapped up a great asset who's he's now going to score plenty of goals. I guarantee you he will score at Turf Moor in the first home game of the season. Guarantee it. He will do that. And all the fans will be up in arms. They'll all be like, why the hell didn't we sign him? Because they're all sat on their asses in that boardroom wondering, what do we do with all this money? We've never had this much money before. Should we spend it on the squad, or shall we spend it on other things? Like the club training. Oh no, we've already done that. We can't use that excuse. How about we do the cricket field stand? Oh no, we can't get permission from the cricket club to move, so we can't actually do that either. How about I'll tell you one thing they could actually invest it in. Something that's needed is improving the. Just a slight side note. They need to bring their standards up on disabled spectators. It's not good enough at Turf Moor. That's one thing I would quite happily let them invest it into, but that's not going to cost £50 million, or 48 if you want to split hairs with all the money that we've made from Keane and Gray. they'll use some lame excuse to not spend the money. I hate Mike Garlick with a passion right now because he gives us the same lines over and over again. He released this wonderful end of season video saying, "Yeah, we'll back Sean Dyche, we'll give him the money, but I'm requesting patience. You've got to be patient in the transfer window. Patience, patience, patience." That is what he's said for the last 3 seasons. Patience, relax. No, if you're patient and you wait too long in the transfer window, all your opportunities of signing somebody go out the window, and next thing you know, it's last couple of days of the transfer window and you've been held to ransom for a player that's not worth the time. You'll end up signing another Jukovic, for God's sake. And if that happens, Jukovic didn't score a single goal in 3 years that we had him, and he was one of those panic buys. That can't happen again. You can't just waste that money. We let him go to Birmingham for diddly squat, and they were scoring at Birmingham because he's a championship striker. I mean, and then there was this obsession that they had with trying to buy Henry Lansbury. Why? And then we tried to sign Asombalonga, but quite rightfully left it when the price got stupid. I still don't think he's a Premier League striker, which was why I was bemused by why we were going after him. But I mean, they keep trying to sign players who've kind of got a little bit of Premier League quality, but mostly Championship, or a veteran or something. We don't even have any veteran quality, to be honest. Jonathan Walters is literally it. But we made a couple of good signings in Jack Cork, and I forget his flipping name. The guy we signed from Leeds, I think he's a left back. Why can't I remember his name? Anyway, that's beside the point. He was a fairly good signing on a free transfer. That'll be decided. It'll be decided in tribunal. Leeds would probably get something like 6-7 million for him if they're lucky, which isn't too bad. And that was a decent signing as well, because obviously with John Flanagan finally going back to Liverpool, we needed cover for Ward, so that was a good signing. But Jonathan Walters, I don't really know how that's going to go. He's one of these guys who looks rubbish and then plays a blinder every week. That's what the Stoke fans think of him anyway. We signed a backup goalkeeper, a third choice goalkeeper. Why not just promote from within? But it doesn't make sense. The transfer business going back to the Gray transfer, I don't understand why we did it. I mean, sure, that I know a lot of people say, "Oh, but you'd lose him for free." Yeah, but if we stayed up, we'd get, what was it, £50 million or whatever it is for staying in the league. That's more than 18 million that we're... sorry, I got something in my eye. Ugh. That's what happens when you've been doing insulation all day. 50 million is obviously much more than 18 million than what we've got for him. Some people would say that's a gamble, but I mean, ultimately, at the end of the day, he clearly didn't want to play for us anymore. It's quite clear in the interview. He doesn't really want to talk about Burnley. And he doesn't really go into the reasons why he left, which is money, wanted £100,000 a week for 9 Premier League goals. What an idiot! That's just agents being stupid. But I didn't really understand that because it now leaves us short up front. We've only got 3 strikers, so clearly we need to sign another. As I said, Jay Rodriguez would have been a perfect choice, but we let him saunter to West Brom without any resistance because our board just sat on their laurels, on their £50 million. They just sat on it because they don't know what to do with the money. The scouting system at Burnley is horrendous. It's useless. It's pathetic. It's been pathetic for the last 5 years, quite frankly. It didn't take a numpty to decide to sign Andre Gray really because he was a good striker in the Championship. But Premier League wise, there are plenty of free agents out there. For example, Joe Ledley. He might cost a bit on the wage side of things, but we just offered Andre Gray the highest possible pay packet. Why not offer the same to players that are going to come in and immediately contribute? I'm not saying that we need Joe Ledley. He'd be good. He'd be great. But, he's not a winger, for example. The team right now has no pace at all. We're going to be so easy to defend against. Everyone's just going to sit deep because, well, no, they'll play a high line. That's the opposite. They'll play a high line because we'll have no pace to get in behind. We'll just get outdone with teams with pace because we'll have to sit deep because we've got pace at the back. Tom Heaton's going to be working overtime. It's going to be a really hard season. I don't see the board doing anything right now. If I was to make a prediction as to where Burnley will finish, I'd say we're going to finish bottom. Because we are quite easy to predict how we're going to play. The lineup's very easy to predict, obviously, and every team's just going to figure us out in the first 10 games, and then that'll be it. By the time the January window will have come around, we'll be so far adrift. Deitch will probably have gone. To be honest, I think this is going to be the last season that Sean Deitch is going to be here. So praise him, Burnley fans. We need to enjoy the time that we've got left with him, because it's quite clear to me now that the board are just stonewalling him. I appreciate that he has ideas as to what players should be like, and this whole idea that a player needs to be integrated. Like Robbie Brady, for God's sake, that man should have been playing in so many more games from the starting lineup instead of the bench. But anyway, he's got his flaws as well, Deitch. He can bear some of the blame. He's trying to find players that will integrate well. Yes, but you've got to put him in the team straight away. If you're buying a key player, you've got to get him in. You've got to get him used to the teammates in match play, not just by sitting on the bench and watching. So, right now, I think, as a Burnley fan, it's really tough. I don't expect the board to do anything, quite frankly. I think what will happen is that it will come to the final week. We won't have done anything. We will have already lost our first 2 games. And then we'll go looking for strikers. We probably won't even go looking for wingers. I don't expect the board to be that clever and think, we might need a bit of pace on the wings. They'll go and try and buy a striker and maybe a defender for an overly inflated price because it's near deadline day and you don't want to lose players on deadline day because it's a pain in the arse. So we'll be playing over the odds for a player that probably isn't worth it and it's just a stopgap filler because the fans are literally screaming at the board members to sign someone and do it now. And then what we'll get is just not what we wanted. They'll be like, "Oh yeah, look, we signed a player," and we'll be like, "Yeah, but that's not what we need. We don't need another. We don't need another Jukovic. We don't need another Leon Court. £1.2 million for one goal line clearance against West Ham United. Jeez, look how that turned out. We still got relegated anyway. But I do think this is the last season we'll have for Sean Dyche because he's going to get overly frustrated with the restrictions that this board keeps imposing on the squad. And then whoever follows him afterwards has got to pick up the pieces from what looks like it's going to be relegation. I don't mean to sound negative, but that's what I'm expecting this season. Last season, I was genuinely optimistic that we could stay up, and we did. This season, I've got no optimism whatsoever because the board have been so incompetent and useless in the transfer market. They've literally waited far too late. The season's about to start, and we haven't really signed anybody in a key position like strikers or wingers, or even attempted to fill the hole left by Michael Keane. So it's going to be a long season. I will go to a few Burnley matches this season, should my work permit and everything. And I will probably vlog those. But I really can't see us. I can't see us finishing outside the bottom 3 this season because the board have been so inactive. They've been, as I said, completely useless. They've waited far too long to attempt to sign people. The clubs that are going to stay up have already done their business. They probably won't buy anyone else unless somebody really good comes available. West Brom, they're safely going to stay up, but they did their business really early on. Getting Jay Rodriguez in, who will contribute to their squad immensely. Flipping Brighton the other night, signing a midfielder, a proper signing because the guy's name is proper. The only other team that is frustrated, which is something that my friend John pointed out, is Newcastle United. They're in a similar boat to us, screaming at the owners to bloody do something, and they're just sat on their haunches not doing anything. So, although to be honest, I reckon Newcastle's squad is probably better than ours, so they would at least finish above us. So, I'll make my prediction for the Premier League. You already know that I'm predicting Burnley to finish bottom, but I'll make my prediction for the league in LTF which will be coming up on its own channel. I'll link the channel in the description. Subscribe to it so then you can watch LTF. It won't be on this channel anymore. LTF is going to be a separate entity. That way I can do stuff that is more to, which is more content based on me. It gives it another platform to obviously build its own audience. So I'll link that in the description. I'll link the channel in the description, and obviously that will be up by the weekend, which will be when obviously the Premier League kicks off. But yeah, you'll be able to see mine and John's predictions on that. And that's it. Yeah, I'm very annoyed at Burnley for their stupid transfer policy. I know a lot of Burnley fans are frustrated. I've seen the carnage on social media. It just doesn't make sense, but life as a Burnley fan, it's really tough. It really is, because one minute you think your club's about to kick on to the next level, and then they just go and throw themselves down a hole. Because why? Anyway, that's it's not really a rant. I think it was more controlled disappointment in my club, as per usual. It's a regular thing, but yeah, that's how it goes. So anyway, so thank you very much for listening to our views. If you're a Burnley fan and you have your own opinion on what happened with this whole transfer inactiveness, feel free to leave a comment. Let me know what you think. If you're not a Burnley fan, if you're a Watford fan and you think you've got good value for money, then please let me know. Tell me about your club's transfer business, because I feel like this transfer window has been really weird and outrageous at times, and that's without talking about Neymar. But yeah, feel free to leave a comment down below what you think of the transfer window, and yeah, thank you for listening, and I'll see you in the next video. Cheerio.